I now call on the public orator to present the honorary graduand David Parr for admission to his degree.
Vice-Chancellor, Sheriff, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it occurs to me that if ever one is to faint on stage, then the graduation ceremony of the nurses is the place to do it. More formally, today it's my great pleasure to introduce David Parr as the recipient of the university's highest honour in recognition of his outstanding contribution to local government and in particular of his role as Chief Executive for Halton Borough Council. You may have noticed a little disturbance around Runcorn recently, for which he apparently has some responsibility. But I shall cross that oratorical bridge when I come to it later. But for now, I want to examine the circumstances that forged David himself, and forged he was. David attended City Comprehensive School in Sheffield. A good all-round sportsman, but like his father, he excelled at cricket. Tragically, David lost his mother Rita in 1980 when he was just 17 and she was 44. He attended her funeral the day before he left for Hull University, a sad and complicated time. At Hull, he studied law and also met his wife Julie. Never underestimate the power of university to set your life's course. He later completed his legal qualifications at Chester College of Law. David's father, Donald, a great influence on David, was a Sheffield miner who lost his job and moved into steel. Sheffield steel, renowned the world over. It was the late 70s and 80s, the era of Margaret Thatcher. He lost that job too, and never forgave Mrs. Thatcher. Later, David appalled his own father by refusing to pass on his opinion of the good lady to her personally when the professional opportunity arose. Sadly, although Don knew of this award today, he too passed away earlier this year. During the second miners' strike in 1984, when David was commuting from Sheffield to Nottingham, where he had joined the Nottinghamshire County Council as an articled clerk, his car was regularly searched by the police, suspected of being what Mrs. Thatcher likened to the enemy within. He remained in Nottinghamshire for 10 years, where he honed many skills of political persuasion from which Halton would later benefit greatly. Leaving his post as Assistant County Secretary in 1994, he became Borough Solicitor for Tameside Metropolitan Council. Before coming to Halton, in 2004, David spent 3 years as the Chief Executive of Macclesfield. He was only 36. It was here that David was also the returning officer for the nearby seat of Tatton in 2001. Now, David says that being lucky is better than being good. And luck would have it that the MP for Hatton, a certain George Osborne, whose future plans for a northern powerhouse, including an immensely complex Mersey Gateway Bridge project, just happened to run through David's future borough. If politics, it has been said, is the art of the possible, then public administration is the art of making it possible. Now, this might come as a bit of a shock, but some politicians like a bit of grandstanding, the limelight and even applause. Some, and you may brace yourselves for this, even take the credit for other people's successes. The achievements, however, including those of vision, leadership, and planning, are often those of the administrators, the officers, and the employees of local authorities. The anonymous and now contracting group of professionals that field pressure from the public and politicians alike. The ones that push for change, the ones that build infrastructure and institutions, the ones that make the civic ends meet. We've heard of the conviction politician, but rarely about the conviction public servant. People such as David. You have a choice, he said, between a quiet career and actually making a difference. The diminutive size of Halton, the fourth smallest in the UK, allows David to make that difference personally. Merely presiding over a remote strategy office is clearly not for him. For years, David has had a specialist legal interest in child protection. Indeed, he is the lead local authority chief executive in the North West for children's services. That difference is made, as he puts it, as corporate parents to those in care. Indeed, he visits them both personally and regularly. And Halton has its fair share too of poverty, poor health and deprivation. Its historical preeminence in chemical manufacture has left its environmental scars too. What the remote strategists call challenging demographics, David calls all our responsibilities. What is rarer, certainly among his peers as chief executives, is that he has a personal authority forged, as was stated earlier, in the straitened circumstances of his own upbringing, forged like steel. You can't change people, but you can create an environment where people want to change themselves, is his maxim. The aim, he says, is a community that's healthy, educated, and employed. Now, I mentioned earlier David's faith in the power of luck. And despite many setbacks, Halton has too had its fair share of luck. But thanks largely to David's efforts, development of high-tech chemical industries now sees cutting-edge, advanced manufacture at Manor Park in Halton. They're the people who respray the Formula One cars. Halton has the most stable geology in the entire world. For this reason, companies like IBM and government are investing £400 million in Halton in order to develop new IT industries. The National Science and Innovation Centre at Daresbury, of which David is a board member, adds greatly to this. It even contributes to the work of the Hadron Collider at CERN, such is the level of its advancement. It has strategic importance, despite its size. Many routes have always run through it. It has the oldest canal, the Bridgewater, and the newest, the Manchester Ship Canal. The West Coast Main Line stops at Runcorn, 2 major airports are nearby, and motorways abound. David was instrumental in developing the 3MG multimodal logistics site at Widnes, which exploits this strategic position. This is a site beloved of Eddie Stobart spotters everywhere. But for many, the Runcorn Bridge, designed to carry a mere 6,000 vehicles per day and which now carries 90,000, has been like a jackboot on the windpipe of the local economy. Anyone who has ever tried to cross it at rush hour, as I did this morning, or bank holidays will attest to this. Indeed, many local people will tell you they spent most of their entire childhoods stuck on the bridge on bank holidays. I exaggerate to make a point, of course, but no such stretching of the numbers is necessary in describing the extent of David's task as Chief Executive of the Mersey Gateway Crossings Board. The superlatives are plentiful. This colossal undertaking to build a new bridge is the largest infrastructure project ever undertaken by any local authority ever. No pressure there. Its forest of cranes marches across the horizon as far as the eye can see. And I remind you that Halton is the fourth smallest, but the £2 billion budget was one of the first capital projects committed by the coalition government in 2010, and its largest. Such luck, of course, is something that the wise prepare for, and David's nerves of Sheffield steel are bringing in the project on time and on budget. So how does the man whose borough has always been at the forefront of scientific innovation himself let off steam? Well, his beloved and long-suffering wife, Julie, keeps him sane and grounded. His son, Warren, and daughter, Molly, who are also supporting him here today, and he takes pride in their own professional journeys. But the words David and Warren shout together, loud and proud, every weekend on the open terraces at Sheffield United are the words of a great club anthem, the Greasy Chip Butty song. Vice-Chancellor, in the name of the Senate and of the Council, it is with great pleasure that I present to you David Parr for admission to the degree of Doctor of Business Administration, honoris causa, in this university.
By virtue of the authority invested in me, I admit you to the degree of Doctor of Business Administration, honoris causa, in this university. Congratulations.